if Travis and Chris meet in the finals, that could be quite the epic beard battle.
I know. Travis is doing some nice work over there. You'll be surprised, though. I'd actually like to see them, kind of face to face with the beards. Chris's is just so long and majestic.
Yes.
I don't want to sell Travis is short at all, but he's got a little bit of work to do.
So looks like both players are going to be keeping their opening 7. Again, Greg is the lower seed. He's the 1 seed, so he's going to be on the play for the rest of the top 8 here, which is obviously great news for a mono-red aggro deck.
Yeah, not a bad spot to be in at all. And these guys will have the green light. We are going to start off our semifinals with a Mountain and a Rakdos Cackler Unleashed.
The comforting play of turn 1 drop, 2 power 1 drop from a red deck.
That's where you want to be.
Love to see that.
That's where you want to be.
Let's see, can Travis match his 1 drop with a 1 drop of his own?
He did draw a Tidebinder Mage for the turn, which is obviously a huge player in this matchup. Again, Greg does have plenty of burn spells to get that off the table. 4 Lightning Strikes, 4 Magma Jets, and 2 copies of Shock, so not the end of the world. As here's an island, this is a 1 drop, and it is a Judge's Familiar.
Ooh, the alternate art Judge's foil from Judge's Familiar.
Mountain the draw here for Hammac. We'll see if he has a 2 drop or potentially 2 1 drops to play. Maybe even a Burning Emissary fueled turn this turn.
So Rakdos Cackler comes over for 2. Judge's Familiar, obviously not as effective of a 1 drop as Cloud from Raptor. Cloud from Raptor can actually be really problematic because it can grow to a 2/3 and pretty much block and kill every one of Greg's creatures. But at least he's got a 1 drop in play, and now a Gore Clown or Chainwalker comes down. So 5 points of power on the board already for Greg.
Yeah, he's got the 3/2 Unleashed along with the 2/2 Unleashed and Rakdos Cackler. Just a Judge's Familiar here for Harrison. He's going to play a Hallowed Fountain untapped. Again, this is something that if he was mono blue wouldn't be an issue, but he deals himself 2 points of damage down to 16. Again, we do know there's a Tidebinder Mage hanging out over there. We'll see if he has maybe that and or a Frostburn Weird, but he is tapping 2 mana, and looks like he is going to deploy a Tidebinder Mage. So that's going to tap down the Gorehouse Chainwalker. And now in for 1 in the air he goes.
Yeah, so Travis's hand's pretty good. It looks like he has a Cloudford Raptor in his hand along with a second Tidebinder Mage. So if he's able to deploy both of those next turn, he's going to be in pretty good shape.
Again, a pretty favorable matchup here for Travis. It would be even easier if he was just straight mono blue in a more traditional build like Sam Black's style from Pro Tour Theros. That being said, the White Splash gives you advantages in other areas. You do take a little bit of a hit in the mono red matchup, but it might not be such a big hit that he can still be okay. And given his hand right now, it looks like he's doing just fine.
So let's see, does Greg have a Chandra's Phoenix here? That'd be a good drop. He needs to further press advantage. A Heist creature here would be great. Ash Zealot, Chandra's Phoenix, either one. It looks like he's going to lead with a Magma Jet here and Tidebinder Mage. That'll allow him to scry, and his Rakdos Cackler will be able to go over unfettered, and his Chainwalker will be able to untap next turn.
And he just feels that he needs to do this now. Of course, needs the additional mana because Judge's Familiar is in play. Also gives him the ability to scry with the Magma Jet, so not a bad turn overall. See if he has another 1 drop to play on his turn either, as that would make it a really, really good turn for him. You see the scrying, looks like he kept both of the cards on top too. He's going to attack here for 2 and put Harrison down to 14.
Yeah, that's got to be good news for Greg, keeping both cards on top. And yeah, deploying a 1 drop here would be huge, but it looks like he doesn't have it. He's just going to have to pass back to Travis. We know Travis does have a second copy of Tidebinder Mage, so if he wants to, he could keep that Chainwalker tapped down. Let's see what he does here. Looks like he drew a Temple of the Enlightenment. So yeah, splashing the white, you mentioned it before the match, it really could be issues because not only are you taking damage from your lands, but you're not able to efficiently cast all your spells because some of your lands come into play tapped, so he can't really maximize his mana every turn.
And then again, scrying is always quite powerful, which he does get to do with the Temple of Enlightenment. Looks like he's going to be tapping 2 mana. Maybe Tidebinder Mage number 2 is about to show up to the party. Maybe not. Looks a little unsure. He says, I think I'll start by attacking potentially, and he will. So Hammac's going to go down, we believe, to 18. As Harrison confirms on his life total pad there.
Yeah, so because Temple comes into play tapped, Travis isn't able to deploy both Cloudfin Raptor and Tidebinder Mage in the same turn, so Tidebinder Mage is just going to come down and tap that Chainwalker yet again.
Hammac is going to untap. Don't forget, he left those cards on top with Magma Jet, so I wonder what those are. As there you do see Tidebinder Mage really stirring up some trouble. Whenever that card's text actually matters, that means it's probably a good matchup for you. Green decks, red decks, what have you. The other times it's just providing devotion for Master Waves and Thassa as another Magma Jet here in the main phase. It's going to take care of the Tidebinder Mage, so time to scry yet again here for Hammac.
Yeah, so he gets to scry yet again. He knows the top card of his library. Basically, he's finding out whether or not the card right below it is worth it or not. Might move it. Yes, and he's going to keep both cards yet again.
One of the things I like here is Cackler's going to come across with Harrison down to 12. Really just keeping Devotion very, very low this game. Master of Waves would obviously be good because it's Master of Waves, but it wouldn't be the end-all, be-all in this certain situation where it is a lot of the other times. Tidebinder Mages getting off of the table due to some timely burn spells. Trying to unlock that Gorehouse Chainwalker to get in for at least 3 points of damage, because if it gets in for at least one hit of 3, it really means it's done its job.
So Travis has a second copy of Temple Alignment along with an island that he drew this turn. And I believe he might have a Frostburn Weird in his hand as well. So Frostburn Weird can do a good job blocking Chainhouse Walker and Rakdos Cackler.
Going to start, it looks like, with the Cloudfin Raptor, we believe. We'll see if he wants to attack first or not. I'm in a little unsure himself, but he will go with the 0-1 flyer. I'm interested to see if he does want to keep attacking or potentially put the brakes on here. Because, you know, more often than not, they're the control deck in this matchup, as Mono Red can't actually play control.
Yeah, oh, looks like he wants to play. Yeah, he had the option of playing Temple of Enlightenment, but it looks like he wants to play an island instead. This will allow him to play the Frostburn Weird, evolve Cloudfin Raptor, but he also has the option of pumping the Weird on his as well now. So if he wants to actually trade with the House Walker, the Chain House Walker.
Yeah, pretty nice turn. Also has the ability to bluff here a rapid hybridization if you'd like. That's just a 1 of in his deck.
So looks like he's gonna attack. And Greg falls to 17. And he's just going to untap, so he doesn't have any instant speed removal. So pretty good shape for Travis, despite the fact that he doesn't have either Master of the Waves or Thassa in play, the kind of powerhouse cards in his hand, in his deck.
See what the mono red player can come up with here. As he did a nice job of containing the Tidebinder Mages, and he's doing a nice job of containing Devotion, but doesn't really look that way now. Frostburn Weird, really difficult for the red deck to get by. You've got Cloudfin Raptor at a 1-2 right now, working its way up. So things are going to get a little bit hairy. Really want to see what Hammac has to play here on his 5th turn. And it's going to be a shock to take down the Raptor.
Wow, so you can't be happy with that play, but either way, he's going to be able to attack now. If he attacks with Rakdos Cackler, it's going to get eaten up by the Frostburn Weird. The Gorehouse Chainwalker can come through, but that'll just get that could get just blocked by Frostburn Weird. But it looks like if I'm Travis, I'd probably just eat the Rakdos Cackler here. So Travis is going to take 3 from the Gorehouse Chainwalker.
Yeah, I think this is just a situation where he just feels like he needs to push through some damage and then let his reach take care of the rest. You know, he does have 3 copies of Fnatic of Mogus. He has 3 copies of Chandra's Phoenix. He's already used 2 Magma Jets and a Shock, so that's going to leave him with 7 Burn Spells and 4 Lightning Strikes, 2 more copies of Magma Jet, and 1 more Shock. So, and you see he's going to go with what looks like the Lightning Strike to finish off the Weird.
Wow, so yeah, Lightning Strike is on Frostburn Weird, and Frostburn Weird hasn't been pumped yet, but either way, it has blocked the Rakdos Cackler, so it is going to die no matter what.
Yeah.
And Rakdos Cackler will survive, even if Travis tried to pump the Frostburn Weird to kill the Cackler, it still dies because there's 3 damage on it.
Yeah, timing is never favorable for him there.
Yeah. So Greg manages to drop Travis to 9 and keep both his creatures in play, along dealing with both the Cloudfin Raptor and the Frostburn Weird. So pretty profitable turn there for Greg.
Quick update for you guys at home as well. In our other match, Jacob Neighbors is up a game there over Chris Van Meter. Black-White mid-range does take game number 1 over Van Meter. And Neighbors, the 2 seed, Van Meter, the 6. So being on the play there may have been critical.
Yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle for Chris now, because now he has to contend with Lightbane Zombie Afterboard and even more Doomblade effects. So we'll find out what happens there. But for this matchup, looks like Travis doesn't even have a play here. Just forced to play a land and pass. Judge is familiar now on D. And Greg has 5 points of power in play, and he's going to cast Magma Jet. Yet a 3rd Magma Jet now.
And no scrying allowed.
No scry. He's going to sacrifice it, yes. So Travis is going to drop to 4 now. So Greg in pretty good shape here. Even if Travis draws a Master of the Waves, even though he doesn't have any devotion, it's still pretty good.
Let's take a look at what this is. This is a Nightveil Spectre, which actually does a decent job of blocking the road. Nykthos is going to come down here for Harrison. He has 6 lands in play, but Harrison is at 4 life, and Hammac can still make some decent attacks here. I mean, Cackler could get eaten, or Gorehouse Chainwalker can trade with the Spectre. Not exactly sure what's in Hammac's hand at this point, though.
Yeah, Night Veil Spectre is a pretty good draw from Travis. Ideally, it would have been Master of the Waves, but still, he's going to be able to eat the Rakdos Cackler. He'll drop to 1, but he can trade with the Gorehouse Chainwalker the following turn. So let's see. Wow. Greg follows it up with the Boros Reckoner. So Travis doesn't have many outs here.
There's no chump blocking that thing, especially when you're at 1 life. Harrison's going to draw a card. A Detention Sphere would be timely. If he can find one, he is reaching for mana.
Yeah, it's really Detention Sphere is pretty much his only out. Does he have it?
He's tapping 3 of it. And it's a Thassa.
Wow. Unfortunately, it is a Thassa. With him at 1, that will not be enough. Boros Reckoner, pretty impressive right here.
Yeah, as it always is. And there's a Chandra's Phoenix, and that's actually the card that's going to lock it up, because had Harrison had maybe a Rapid Hybridization in his hand, he could Rapid Hybrid the Boros Reckoner, eat the Chainwalker, and then actually have a shot. But because there's another attacker there, and especially because it has haste, Greg Hammac is going to win game number 1 here with Mono Red up again against Travis Harrison and his Blue-White Devotion deck, as we are going to bring it back here to the booth, where it is trivia time. So I will let you explain the rules, and I'm going to ask a real hard-hitting question this morning.
Okay, so we're going to ask you questions just like we did last round. You have to respond to us on Twitter at SCG Live, hashtag SCG Premium, with the answer. You don't need to rush. You know, speed is not a factor. Accuracy is all that matters. And we will select one of you from at random to get 6 months of free SCG Premium.
All right, my friends, get your Twitters ready. My question is not incredibly difficult this morning. Within the sideboard of Greg Hammac's deck, of course, our mono red player, he has a couple of enchantments over there, particularly enchant creature auras. And if you can name that 2 of enchant creature aura in his sideboard, hashtag your answer with the hashtag SCG Premium. Also, make sure you're following at SCG Live so we can get that over to you. And again, the winner will be announced at the conclusion of our semifinal round, as we will head back over to the match. We'll take a look at the sideboards. You've got Travis Harrison's deck list in front of you. Blue-White Devotion down a game right now. So what can he do to turn things around?
Yeah, so after board, he's got cards like Pacifism, Riot Control. These are cards that can come in against creature-based deck. He also has 1 copy of Jace, Architect of Thought. Not sure he necessarily wants to, and it's not really a card that's great against red. Sometimes it can be good, but I don't know if you want to board it in. He does have 2 copies of Domestication. That's huge because we saw Boros Reckoner there. If you could actually take Boros Reckoner in this matchup, that's really huge. It's one of the cards that Mono Red always has a difficult time dealing with. So I love bringing in the Domestications. Rapid Hybridization, I kind of like bringing that card in as well, because not only can it randomly deal with threats like a Boros Reckoner or Chandra's Phoenix if you have to, but it also can target your own creatures and beef them up into a 3/3. So in the first game, we saw Greg use Magma Jets on a bunch of creatures trying to clear the path. If Travis had a Rapid Hybridization there, suddenly it changes everything around. So I love Rapid Hybridization. I love Domestication. Pacifism's okay. It's not great, but it'll get the job done. So I see him bringing in Domestication, Rapid Hybridization, Pacifism, probably Riot Control as well. I see him boarding out Biden Athasa. Biden Athasa not very good in this matchup. He's got 1 copy of Prognostic Sphinx in his deck. Not really sure that's great against Mono Red. Same thing with Afara. He's got Afara in his main deck as well, and I don't think that card's that ideal in this matchup either. So I probably would take out the Afara, the Prognostic Sphinx, the Biden Athasa, and maybe shave some of the Detention Spheres for some more efficient or more powerful enchantments.
Other side here on Hammac, you see a Pithy Needle, 2 copies of Madcap Skills, 2 Searing Bloods, a Shock, 4 Skullcracks, 2 Active Treasons, 3 copies of Mizium Mortars. He's got some nice additional burn spells, which I'll play a huge role in that game. Searing Blood, probably the best of the bunch. We saw him aggressively take down Tidebinder mages with removal spells. Searing Blood will do a fantastic job of that. Of course, the Shock also going to be good here. I do like the Mizium Mortars as well, being able to contain a Night Veil Spectre and or a Frostburn Weird. Unlikely he'll get to overload it in this matchup since his deck only has 21 lands, but there's a lot of functionality there. Some of the creatures are a little bit poorer, and things definitely do change after sideboard, but I think he has some nice options. But again, things would definitely get more difficult for him after sideboard, especially when he's on the draw for game number 2.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, we talked about how Mono Blue Devotion typically has a good matchup. The white splash in Travis's deck definitely hurt him in the first game. Not only was he forced to play a Hallowed Fountain untapped and take 2, but that Temple of Enlightenment, had it been just a basic island, he would have been able to play Cloudfin Raptor and Tidebrider Mage in the same turn, evolving the Raptor. He would have been able to evolve the Raptor again the following turn. But the way it played out, he was forced to play a Raptor a turn late and only be able to evolve it once, so Greg was able to shock it. So the sequencing there, even though it didn't seem like it threw him off that much, that one turn proved to be a real big difference there because it gave Greg the opportunity to shock the Cloudfin Raptor. So that white splash actually cost Travis a little bit in the first game.
Yeah, we just saw him kind of have to stagger his drops a little bit because of Temple of Enlightenment. And of course, Temple of Enlightenment is an incredibly powerful card. His scrying is completely insane. But that little bit of staggering, had he been mono blue instead, we're probably looking at a different game there, as you do see both players sideboarding. If you guys are wondering how the other match is going between Neighbors and Van Meter did win game number 2 rather quickly. So those players going to a third game. Again, Neighbors playing Black-White Midrange, Van Meter playing Jund Monsters. It does actually have to deal with cards like Lifebane Zombie after sideboard, but he was able to get game 2 done very quickly.
Yeah, it's funny. This is the second round where Van Meters lost the first game to a mono black deck, and then after board, you figure the matchup's much worse for him, but it actually he's been able to win the second game both times. So we'll see if that trend continues for him.
Yeah, Neighbor's sideboard, he has 3 copies of Doomblade, 3 Lifebane Zombies in his sideboard. Those are 6 very, very good cards against Van Meter. And he's got obviously some cards to board out to really make his deck lean and mean, but Van Meter able to get the job done in the second game, and we'll see what happens in the third one. Of course, if we do have time to join that one, we will, but we're going to stick and stay here between Mono Red and Blue White Devotion. Greg Hammac up a game here over Travis Harrison, as we do make our way through our first standard open here in Season 2. Season 2 will culminate with the Invitational in Columbus at Origins, which is a gaming convention that I know you've been to quite a few times over your history.
I have not. Oh,
You've
wait,
never
actually.
Been? Oh, yes, you have.
I have been to Origins.
That's what they used to do nationals.
I'm thinking of Gen Con. I've never been to Gen Con. Origins was great. Back in the day, the amateur championships.
Yes.
Whew, that was awesome.
They used to hold nationals there. They used to do a lot of different things there. And it'll be fun to go back there, close to where I grew up.
It's in Columbus,
In
right?
Columbus, yeah. 2 hours from where I actually grew up in Cleveland.
I've always had a great time in Columbus.
Columbus is a great city.
Yeah, it is actually a pretty fun city. And Origins, we used to drive down, me, Patrick Sullivan, Eugene Harvey.
Up from Jersey?
Yeah, used to drive down every
that's like
summer.
12 hours or something?
No, it was like 6-7 hours.
No,
it is a terrible trip.
Okay, all right.
Because it's super long. It was like 6 or 7 hours.
Okay.
But it is the worst trip because you have to drive across Pennsylvania, which is arguably the longest.
Somehow
drive.
that is the longest state ever.
It feels so long because it's nothing but farms too. It's just you're driving through farm country, and the scenery just doesn't change. It's the same thing.
I've driven the Cleveland to Philadelphia, drive a couple of times for GPs and stuff like that, and somehow it seems like Pennsylvania is just like longer than California.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
What also made it longer was Patrick Sullivan blasting the same Wu-Tang album for 4 hours
on
straight.
repeat. Yeah.
On repeat.
What do you think I have to deal with in the hotel room?
Yeah,
I'm used to it.
Patrick Sullivan loves Wu-Tang Clan. Was on record as saying he was willing to spend $1,000 on a Wu-Tang album.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. That's for sure. I had no idea about that. That's awesome.
Well, they are creating one album for sale. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're making one album for I think $1 million, or they're offering it to. I think Jay-Z is going to buy it. For
okay.
Like $500,000.
Jay-Z's going to try to buy it, but he's going to be outbid.
He's going to be outbid by Patrick Sullivan. Yeah. You guys gonna give him a raise here?
I don't know. That's not on me. That's not on me. What Patrick does with his finances is up to him. If he wants that Wu-Tang Clan album, by all means, fire away. We'll be starting with game number 2 here in just a little bit. And don't forget, our invitational coverage will be taking place a couple hours from now. Legacy top 8, players in the top 8. Of name value, there you've got Tom Ross playing Blue Green Infect. You've got Jared Betcher playing Imperial Painter, a little white splash this weekend. And then you've also got arguably the front runner, the number 1 seed, best of 5, Joe Lissette with Miracles. A very scary thought. Best of 5 untimed rounds with the Miracle Master.
I have to say, there was talk about this on Twitter. Jared has been putting up some really impressive results lately. GP top 8s, a 9th place at the Pro Tour. Invitational top 8 now. I mean, he's been really tearing it up lately.
He is on a very destructive path, really creating a name for himself. Young kid, 21, 22 years old, got 2nd place to Owen Turtenwald in the finals of Grand Prix Washington, D.C. with Sneak and Show. A week after that, comes to the Open Series, wins a Legacy Open with Sneak and Show. I believe a week or two after that, wins a PTQ to qualify for Pro Tour Born of the Gods. Goes to Pro Tour Born of the Gods, his first Pro Tour, 9th place. After that, Grand Prix Cincinnati last weekend, he's the #1 seed going into the elimination rounds before being defeated by Brad Nelson in the semifinals. And now this weekend, he's in our elimination rounds again. That kind of run is ridiculous.
Now that you've laid it out like that, it is pretty much the most ridiculous run I've ever heard.
That kind of run
life.
is completely absurd.
When you actually hear the timeline of it,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my God, that's so impressive.
He is getting it all figured out here as Travis Harrison is going to take a mulligan. And it's kind of funny. I mean, he's been building a name for himself on the Open Series a little bit by playing Sneak and Show. And I know that, he wrote a report for leaving a legacy and kind of laid out his goals a couple months back, which is, I want to qualify for my first Pro Tour, hopefully do well in that. Obviously, he did. To be fair, I think that his deck choice at that Pro Tour, he was working with some guys in the Albany, New York area. Brian Gottlieb is the one that comes to mind. They played ad nauseum Angels Grace at that tournament. And I remember
Yes.
when I tuned into the coverage there and I saw Jared was playing against Frank Karsten, I had no idea what Jared was playing, and he led off with like a Temple of Deceit. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what deck plays that. And then he kind of panned to his hand, and I was just like, oh, no. Because Frank was playing Affinity, and first of all, Jared has Angels Race in his deck. Second, he has Phyrexian Unlife in his deck, so it's already bad. Also, Affinity v Combo, especially that combo deck. Frank lost pretty easily in the 2 games they played. And I was like, I think that might be a really good choice. Like, Temples make the deck a lot better. No one was really talking about this deck coming in. He ended up getting 9th place. It was a clean cut on Breaker, so it's not like he kind of squeaked out or anything like that. But getting 9th place at your first Pro Tour is an insane result.
Yeah, that's a great result. A lot of players, they struggle for years to even cash their first Pro Tour.
Yes.
So to start off things with a 9th place finish, you can really build from there.
Yeah, and then, obviously he has got 2 Grand Prix top 8s now on his resume. Again, losing in the finals to Owen Turtenwald, playing Sneak and Show. Not a bad person to lose to in the finals. Goes to Grand Prix Cincinnati with his kind of take on Black-White Devotion. He wouldn't call his deck Black-White Midrange. It's more Black-White Devotion, which he played here this weekend. Ends up making top 8 here. Ends up making the top 4 in Cincinnati, losing to arguably the best standard player in the world right now in Brad Nelson. Again, not a bad player to be knocked out of a tournament by. So he is on fire right now. And we kind of say that Joe Lissette might be the favorite just because of his ability to play miracles. But, time kind of is a factor when you're playing that deck in the Swiss round of tournaments. But Jared Vetcher is arguably the biggest name in our top 8 this weekend. And that's kind of almost selling Tom Ross a little short.
Yeah, Tom the Boss Ross, definitely one of those players that I love watching play because he's always playing these really interesting, innovative, aggressive decks, and I love his style.
We'll start it off here in game number 2. Travis Harrison with a Cloudfin Raptor. Don't forget, Travis did take a mulligan in this game as Hammac will draw a card. He's going to play a Mountain, and there is a 2-power 1-drop. It's a Fire Drinker Satyr.
So Travis leads with the Cloudfin Raptor. It looks like he did keep in Prognostic Sphinx. So we'll see if that plays a role this game. He's going to play a Temple of Enlightenment, see if he wants to keep the card on top of his library. Prognostic Sphinx obviously can be pretty huge if it enters play, but at 5 mana, kind of tough sometimes against the mono red deck.
Yeah, it takes some time. If it does get in play, I think it'll probably end up winning Travis the game, or at least coming very close, as here's another copy of Cloudfin Raptor. But we're not at that point just yet. So
yeah, if he casts Prognostic Sphinx, and he's at 16 life, I'd say yeah, maybe, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So far, Greg has a Satyr in play, and now he's going to play. That's a sideboard card, Searing Blood. So he's able to kill one of the Cloudfin Raptors, and drops Travis down to 17. And now the Satyr's going to come over to drop him down to 15.
Yeah, really important to actually be able to contain the Cloudfin Raptors before they do start evolving, because you would like it so that those cards do not trade with your 2-power 1-drop. So far, so good. As here comes the Mutavault. We'll see if Harrison does have something to play to evolve, but he does not. So Hammac is going to get to untap. He's going to take a draw, and as Greg does work through his first main phase here, quick update on the other match. Jacob Neighbors does defeat Chris Van Meter, so put your razors and clippers and shears away. It's not time to shave the beard just yet.
So Greg looking to see what he wants to do here. Looking at Travis' side, though, he did draw a Domestication last turn, so he does have one of his key sideboard cards for this matchup. So if Greg plays a Boros Reckoner here, it could be a really great turn 4 for Travis.
It's got to be a little bit scary to consider doing that. This is going to be a copy of Firefish Striker. And Greg, don't forget, he's a 21 land deck, so if he was to miss the land drop, it wouldn't be too surprising, and he does. Now, Domestication, as you mentioned, does a fantastic job against Boros Reckoner. Let's not forget also, that card is fantastic at, of course, upping up the devotion for blue-white devotion. So we'll see if he wants to deploy that right now and maybe take that Firefish Striker.
Yeah, so pretty good situation for Travis. Greg wasn't able to commit more creatures to the board. He just has that Firefish Striker, so if he steals it, he can just jump in front of the Satyr and wipe off Greg's board completely.
You see 4 mana being tapped here by Harrison. It looks like he's going to pull the Domestication to the front. He says, give me that Firefish Striker. It's not the most impressive play in the world, but it'll do at this point.
So we're going to steal that Firefish Striker. Greg, given the fact that he didn't play a land, he likely has some burn spells left in his hand, so he might be able to clear the way for another Satyr attack. But again, pretty good shape for Travis because Greg just doesn't have a lot of creatures in play, and it looks like Big Daddy Prognostic Sphinx might enter play pretty soon.
I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised to see an upkeep Magma Jet there in the Firefish Striker, which would be a beautiful play, smooth out the draws, maybe find Greg another land or something of that nature, but he does not have that, so he just draws his card for the turn, work his way through his first main phase. Looks like he has something to cast, and it is a copy of Mizium Mortars. So Firefish Striker, get out of the way, give me that back, get in for 2. Harrison's going to go down to 11. We'll see if Harrison does have a 5th land for the 3/5 Sphinx.
So no land here. So Travis here, he has a Mutavault in play. Looks like he has another Cloudwind Raptor. Is he going to draw 5th mana for the Prognostic Sphinx?
The answer is no. Oh, just a Master.
Just a Master. So it doesn't draw a 5th land, but Master comes down, evolves Cloudwind Raptor twice. So suddenly, Travis has a 2/3 flyer, a 2/1 pro red creature, and 2 2/1 elementals in play. So just like that, board position really dominant to the point where he can start attacking for 2 in the air now. So great draw there for Travis.
Yeah, Hammac's going to go down to 18, and of course, Evolution twice there on the Cloudwind Raptor. 1 because it's an 0/1, then Master Waves comes in as a 2/1, so that's going to evolve the Raptor into a 1/2. Then the Elemental comes into play. That's a 2/1, so that'll evolve into a 2/3. So in the air goes Harrison, puts Hammac down to 18, and his board position is now stabilized.
Yeah, not much Greg can do from this position. I mean, Master Waves, he really doesn't have any answers to it. There are some red decks that splash Chain to their rocks to sort of deal with Master, but there's really nothing in Greg's deck. He, short of maybe overloading a Mizium Mortars to deal with all the other creatures, all the elementals, but Greg's well far away from doing anything like that. So
chances of overloading a Mizium Mortars in his deck, period.
Yeah, with 21 lands.
Yeah, that is very, very low. So I'm really curious to see what's in Hammac's hand right now because he's having some real difficulty. He's just going to play a Firefish Striker. Obviously, no good attacks here, so he's just going to have to pass the turn back over to Harrison, who will quickly untap. Again, his hand is a Cloudwind Raptor and a Prognostic Sphinx, so he's in the enviable situation where lands and spells are good right now. Hey, a Mutavault's pretty sweet, too. So that's going to come in as that's a land and a spell. And now he can drop down the Prognostic Sphinx pre-combat and evolve the Cloudwind Raptor, and it looks like that's what he's going to do.
So the blue Baneslayer Angel comes down and evolves Cloudwind Raptor to a 3-power creature now. So, yeah, I would say Greg's only chance this game now is maybe just trying to burn Travis out, you know, drawing another Searing Blood, then maybe Fanatic Amalgus possibly. But again, he's going to be under a lot of pressure now. He's going to have... he's got the Master of the Waste tokens plus a 3-power Cloudwind Raptor, and then the Prognostic Sphinx attacking next turn. So it's going to be tough for Greg to kind of come out of this one. I just don't think burn is his only option, and he doesn't have nearly enough mana or time to really go down that road.
Yeah, the big issue here I think is time, as you said, because you know, depending on how Travis does attack, I think it's like a more conservative attack here this particular turn. But Travis can close the game out very quickly. Hammac's down to 14. Travis has 2 3-power flyers, so Greg's at a virtual 8. Those Mutavaults are 3-power creatures because of Master of Waves bonus. Then you've got some 2-power elemental tokens. You've got the 2-power Master itself, which has protection from red. This game can get closed out in 2 turns, potentially 1, depending on how things do go over there for Harrison. So Hammac, I would be surprised if he actually has the time to burn somebody out right now, and he certainly has no good attacks right now.
Yeah, next turn, if Travis just activates both Mutavaults and swings with everything, because of Firefish Striker's ability where he takes damage, it's basically going to be game over. So, yeah, Greg's in a really tough spot here. Don't really see him pulling out of this one.
You see Greg just has to draw and pass the turn back. His hand's probably filled with some of the 3 or 4 drops in his deck. Again, he has Boros Reckoner, he has Chandra's Phoenix, he has Fanatic of Mogus. He could also have some burn spells in his hand. He's got Lightning Strike, Magma Jet, Shock, some other ones after sideboard. We saw Searing Blood already, as well as Amizium Mortars. But that being said, it is a rough road ahead here for the mono red player. Fortunately for him, having the number 1 seed here is really a blessing because he gets to play first in game 3, because this one looks like it's gotten away from him.
So if you're Travis here, you can be a little conservative. Maybe you're afraid of Searing Blood. It looks like he's just going to attack with the elemental tokens and the prognostic swings. He can scry.
Yeah, he does get to scry 3 here with prognostic swings. So 1, 2, and 3. And of course, the other ability on this card is discard a card, prognostic swing gains hexproof until end of turn, and then you must tap it in order to do that. But if it's already tapped and attacking, then you're fine.
So it looks like he found the Tidebinder Mage. He's going to keep that and move the other 2 cards to the bottom of his library. And yeah, if Travis just takes it, he'll drop to 7, and that means that any attack from Travis next turn is going to be lethal.
There's a Nightveil Spectre as well, so Travis has really glutted up this board. He's got a lot of flyers out there. You see 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage just come across. Hammac's going to go down to 7. Well, looks like we may have some blocks here. We'll see exactly where we do stand. Looks like, yeah, okay, Hammac's going to go down to 7. He's also going to see if he can try to figure out a way to win this game with what looks like just 1 turn left. Prognostic Sphinx, kind of an orthodox card, as there's a Lightning Strike that's going to go upstairs. Harrison's going to go down to 8. But I kind of like that card. I think at some point in its standard life, it's going to do something positive. Just a really, really good card.
Yeah, we tried playing it in blue-white decks like prior to Dublin, and it certainly has. It's useful in certain matchups, but it's just not nearly as powerful as some of the other threats you want to play, like Elspeth or Aetherling.
Sure.
So it's difficult. I think it's more of a sideboard card, if anything. Because there are some decks, like really removal heavy decks, where it's probably pretty good.
Tidebinder Mage comes rolling off the top, but Travis did know that was there, of course, from the scry from Prognostic Sphinx. Going to tap down the Firefish Striker, going to fire up a Mutavault, and I think we're going to see everyone in the red zone. And Greg knows that, and he's going to pick it up and pack it in. So Travis Harrison is going to win game number 2. You see him scry 3 there with the Prognostic Sphinx very quickly before we do move to a third and final game here between Blue-White Devotion and Mono Red.
And that's exactly how that game plays out usually. Master of the Waves comes down, completely changes the board state, and suddenly the blue devotion deck is just in a total dominating board position. So Greg will be on the play in game 2 and game 3 here. So if he can get that 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop curve that this deck can kind of generate, he's still going to be in good shape, because cards like Searing Blood are still really good, and he could be able to put enough pressure on Travis that even if a Master of the Waves did come down, he can finish him off with Burn. The problem is that once Master of the Waves came down, Travis was only at 13, so that's not nearly low enough for Greg to be able to finish him off with Burn.
Yeah.
So with Greg on the play now, though, if he can continue to curve out, he should be pretty good. Fortunately for Greg, though, he just wasn't able to really put enough creatures in the play early on. He was stalled on 2 mana, but it looked like he had a lot more spells in his hand than creatures.
Yeah. I think, we saw Master of Waves take over that game, and let's not forget, that was a Master of Waves simply for 2. That wasn't some huge Master of Waves that Travis can get off the board. Getting a 2-1 protection red and then 2 additional 2-1 elementals, that's how good that card is against mono red. Nothing crazy there with Master Waves like we have seen in combination with Nightveil Spectre and Tidebinder Mage and a Devotion of 6 or 7, which of course these blue Devotion decks can put together. Just a very honest one with just a Cloud from Raptor out there can really change the dynamic of a game.
Yeah, no need to go crazy. Just get that pro red. The fact that it has pro red is really the most important thing there. So getting it for 1 or 2 even is just usually gravy. Greg here, his best situation is playing a creatures on turn 1 through 3, and Travis missing a 1-drop and Tidebinder Mage.
Yeah.
Frostburn Weird can be problematic, but if Greg is able to get one of the Firefish Strikers in play, he's still in pretty good shape. So Greg definitely has the tools to kind of win this matchup, and the question is, can he dodge an early Master of Waves? Because like we said, a Master of Waves for 1, 2, 3, either of those is still really difficult to beat.
Yeah, it's all about kind of just fading Master Waves in general. It's very rare that you see a red deck be able to actually beat a Master of Waves for any amount. Some red decks have gone towards a card like Legion Loyalist, when you do have Battalion for that. token creatures can't block. Well, we have seen them go that direction before, but that's kind of an obscure thing that they have to do in order to get the job done. You take a look at Hammac's deck list here. He does not have any copies of that card throughout his 75, so that's not a tool that is afforded to him. He just needs to kind of get a curve out going there, but the tough thing about Blue Devotion or this Blue-White Devotion deck is they can keep up with you, card for card, turn for turn, with 1-drops and 2-drops.
Yeah, the tough thing for Greg is, Travis has cards like Tidebinder Mage. Even though they're easily answered by Greg, it still stops one of his attackers for the turn. So it's a really frustrating card to contend with. And Frostburn Word, obviously, with a 1/4 being a 1/4 is just difficult to answer in general. So pretty tough spot for Greg because Travis does have so many good early plays. One thing that Greg is fortunate with, though, is that being on the play makes domestication a little worse for Travis.
Yeah.
It still can be devastating if he's able to take a Boros Reckoner, but again, being on the play means that even if he does domesticate a Boros Reckoner, there's a good chance it might be tapped already because it attacked the following turn, the prior turn. So the fact that Greg's on the play is really going to be key here. Hopefully he's able to muster the kind of aggressive start that he needs to win.
Yeah, we're going to see. Again, I think just being the #1 seed here is just huge for Mono Red. I think overall, I think this is the matchup that Greg would never want to play against given the opportunity. I think if he has to play against a Blue Devotion deck, he'd rather it be a Blue-White one that does have Hallowed Fountain and Temple of Enlightenment for the potential to take damage off of lands or the potential to not curve out appropriately. That being said, he was able to win game #1, got decimated game #2, and he can actually kind of try to steal game #3 here and move on to the finals to play against Jacob Neighbors and Black-White Devotion, which is probably a pretty good matchup for Greg on the left there. So we'll see if he can make it through.
Yeah, I think he probably would have preferred to play against Jund Monsters, but yeah, I think either way, he loves playing against the decks, particularly one with like Thoughtseize and Underworld connections. If you're mono red, you're probably okay with that. But Travis is going to be on the draw this game, and even though he's on the draw, the fact that his early game can be so good against mono red, he just needs to slow things down enough. Like if he can just get a Master of Waves to resolve when he's in the teens, even the low teens, it's usually good enough because it's just hard for Greg to burn him out. Fanatic Amogus is obviously a card that gives him that ability, but with only 21 lands, we saw it in game 2, it's hard for him to get to 4 mana sometimes. And if he does get to 4 mana, sometimes that means he's flooded.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the awkward thing with mono red sometimes is you don't really want to play a lot of lands. But you want to play kind of high impact spells like Fanatic because it allows you to kind of get a little more reach when your opponent kind of creates this dominant board position. So it's really tough. When you talk to Patrick always likes to build mono red decks that can function on 2 lands only.
Sure.
You don't need 3 or 4 lands to work because getting flooded with a mono red deck is probably the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
So you only want to play like 20, 21 lands, and you want some of those lands to be Mutavaults. Greg doesn't have any Mutavaults in his deck. It's all mountains.
Yeah.
So if he gets flooded, it's not like he can even use that mana for like activating Mutavault or anything.
Well, both players are going to lay out their 7 cards here. Game 3 will be underway between Hammac and Harrison. Again, Hammac will be on the play. He is on your left. Harrison on the draw. Did win game #2. The #1 seed with mono red here, Greg Hammac, going to try to steal one against the Blue Devotion deck.
Greg wants to see triple Rakdos Cackler, 2 mountains, 2 Searing Blast.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe throwing a Burning Tree Emissary in there too.
Maybe a little Burning Tree, yeah.
He wants to unload his hand as fast as he can.
So let's see here. Greg debating maybe this hand's just not aggressive enough. If he doesn't have a 1-drop, he might have to ship.
That's the face of a man who's mulliganing.
Yeah.
I know it. Or he's trying to convince himself not to mulligan, I think. All right, he's going to keep.
So Cedric Phillips is wrong yet again.
Yep, I have a good track record of that.
Travis Harrison, let's see if he's going to keep. That's not
yeah,
that little sneer. You can't be happy. This could be a number. This could be. I don't have any 1-drops.
Wow, he's going to keep too.
All right, he's going to keep.
They're both bluffing. They're trying to trick each other. They both have the nuts.
So Greg has a 1-drop. He has that Satyr.
Harrison going to take a draw here.
So does Harrison have a 1-drop? Nope, he has a Temple of Enlightenment, so that can help him smooth out his draws. Is he going to keep or not?
Does have a Master of Waves in his hand.
Yeah, he has a Master.
Also has a pacifism. Couple
Oh, yeah,
lands.
his hand's fine.
I'm telling you, it's a
Frostburn
bluff.
Weird.
It's a bluffing game.
Yeah, what a bluff.
Yeah.
Frostburn Weird, Thassa, 2 islands, pacifism, master.
Greg's just going to play a mountain and all 4 emissaries this turn.
Well, he's going to need it probably.
Yeah. He's like, I didn't know if it was good enough.
So Greg draws for the turn, attacks with the Satyr, dropping Travis to 18 here.
He doesn't play a second land. Okay,
Oh,
figured it out.
All right, so
Figured
that
it
was
out.
it.
Yep.
So while Travis might have been bluffing how good his hand is, Greg was definitely really considering mulliganing.
Harrison going to draw his card for the turn. He's got to be pretty happy to see no second land on the other side of the table.
Yeah, this is a great situation. He doesn't even need to cast pacifism here if he doesn't want to. He could actually just play the Frostburn Weird.
Going to tap 2 mana. It will be the Frostburn Weird, and he'll pass it back.
Yeah, not many ways for Greg to straight up kill Frostburn Weird. He does have Mizium Mortars after board, but with only 1 mana, he can't even attack here. So, great situation for Travis. He's got the Frostburn Weird. He can even attack. I think he might have another copy.
See a copy of Riot Control drawn there for Harrison. 3 mana going to be tapped. I think this is a Thassa. And things are spiraling.
Ugh, what a good start here for Travis.
Feeling so confident, he's going to attack for 1.
Yeah, so he's gonna lose this damage race currently, but I don't think he cares because Master Wave's likely coming down the following turn.
There's an attack there for 2 from Hammac. Harrison going to go down to 16. There is another play here, another copy of Fire Drink Crusader, but he just has to pass the turn back. Time to scry from the God of the Sea.
Does he have a 4th land? That's the question. He's going to be able to scry, trying to find that 4th land to cast the Master of the Waves in his hand. Even if he doesn't have it, though, still sitting pretty. And nope, it looks like he just doesn't have a 4th land, but he does have a 2nd Frostburn Weird.
That'll turn on Thassa, and that's probably more than good enough.
Yeah, he can continue pressing the advantage. He's going to keep attacking with both creatures, I'd expect, and pump, dropping Greg to 12.
And he's just going to attack here.
Oh, wow.
He's going to play a little more conservative. I don't particularly like the conservative approach. I think that he can just close this game out. He doesn't have to play conservative at all, but I don't think either way is really going to cost him very much either.
Yeah. He's got that riot control.
There's a mountain.
There's a 2nd land. Does he have a Mizium Mortars to deal with at least one of the Frostburn Weirds and turn off Devotion?
Yeah, I mean, this is, obviously he kept the hand predicated on drawing another land. So now that he has finally drawn another land, I want to see exactly what he was kind of up to here.
Yeah, how many Burning Tree Emissaries are in this hand?
Yeah.
That's the question. You'd imagine at least 1. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Burning Tree Firefist Striker, because you're right. If you're going to keep a 7-card hand with only 1 land, and he didn't even play a 2nd 1-drop on turn 2.
Yeah.
So it's got to be pretty aggressive with the 2-drops. Wow, so he swings with both Fire Drinker Satyrs. I can't imagine not seeing both.
I couldn't block. I
drop.
could not block faster.
So he's only going to block 1? So maybe he really just doesn't want to lose both Frostburn Weirds because he's afraid of losing Devotion, but you're going to lose Devotion no matter what, right?
Yeah, I can't see a reason to not block each one of these, like in this particular situation.
I would block so fast.
Yeah.
You couldn't pay me not to block both. Because even if Greg does have a removal spell, he still can only use it on 1.
Yeah, and
like
he's
unless
gonna
you're
lose
afraid
both
of
his
double
guys.
shock.
Yeah, but even if that's the case, he's going to lose both of his creatures.
Yeah.
There's Burning Tree Emissary and a Lightning Strike.
So there's the Burning Tree Emissary we thought we would see, and one of the Frostburn Weirds dies. So Travis falls to 14, and he's going to scry again. Let's try to find that 4th land. And he's going to keep it, and it is a mutable.
I wonder what this spell's going to be.
So here we see Master of Waves. So Master for 4 Devotion. So 4 Elementals entering play now. And Travis at 14, so sitting pretty. We mentioned Master of the Waves, when you're in the teens, usually means game over. But we'll see what Greg can do here.
Greg going to quickly untap. He's going to take a draw. Not sure if he drew a 3rd land or not. Obviously, he has a ton of spells in his hand because he hasn't been hitting his land drops.
Yeah, how many burn spells could he have in his hand here? If he drew a 3rd land here, I'd say he still has outs because of Fanatic. But yeah, he doesn't even have a 3rd land here, so he's likely going to be dead in 2 turns.
And this is oftentimes what you do see as well. When Master of Waves comes down, the red deck is forced to put on the brakes, and you saw Greg unable to even attack there. Top card's going to go to the bottom. Harrison's going to take a draw. It's a copy of Tidebinder Mage. That'll provide sufficient devotion for the Thassa. You see he's going to do a little math. That's 8, that's 10, that's 15 if Thassa's live. Frostmourne would be 16 or more than that.
Yeah, if you're Travis, I think you're probably okay just casting Tidebinder Mage, but it looks like he might have a second
Oh, he's the second Master Waves? Oh, okay.
That's even better. We're going to get more
Yeah,
elementals, and that's
I
it.
would extend the hand as well. As Travis will show you, I still had all of these. He's moving on to the finals to play against Jacob Neighbors. Blue-White Devotion moving on to the finals. In what is obviously a very, very good matchup for that deck, especially when your mono-red opponent does not hit their second land drop on time.
Yeah, and you know, mono blue devotion, be it mono blue or blue white, it's one of these decks that I feel is not getting played nearly as much as it should be. I mean, it is still clearly one of the best decks in the format. And the fact that traditional mono black devotion decks are kind of on the decline, so you don't have to face other Night Veil Specters as much, is even better for mono blue. So I'm constantly shocked that I don't see more mono blue devotion decks at the top tables.
Well, when I think of mono blue,